to re-record.
You just did. Oh, snap. Look at that.
All right, take two. Welcome to Saints on Cinema. I am your host, Tim Wild. And with me tonight is my co-hosts, Ashley and Josh, alphabetically. That way Josh is last. Anyway, good news, everyone.
First in everyone's hearts.
I got my fan for my computer in the mail today, so I'll be able to fix my laptop. So we'll have graphics like that would have been up here and then go down here. Well, actually down, not here, but imagine at the bottom of the screen that I can't reach my hand down because it goes out of frame. But down there, it would have been Saints on Cinema like that. But I'll be able to start editing again. And Ashley has been doing such a wonderful job these first couple of episodes in her in the dispensation of Ashley. It's been great.
One of these days, Ashley will be as good at me as me at editing. So.
One day. Something to strive for.
I might learn some things about editing next year or next year because I'm taking a couple of film classes, not one on editing, but one about film production. So it probably isn't going to have anything to do with editing. So never mind. I'm not going to know anything about editing. It will not affect this show at all, other than me learning how much I don't know about movies. But we have a fun agenda today. We're going to follow up with some things from our last episode, and we're going to talk about TV holiday / Christmas specials, which reminds me, I just thought of another movie that we forgot, Josh. Come back to that in a minute. But before we start, big news related to another Christmas event in Rocky 4, before 5. Rocky 4, this last week was the Mike Tyson fight. And yes. It was, I don't know, I didn't watch it. Josh, did you watch? I know you watched it.
I did.
And if there was any way I could have gone and watched it with you, we would have had a fight night where we fight about it. But I want to hear your report on it because I know you had some feelings.
I did. Okay. So first of all, I really like boxing fans, all things fight sports. I love it all. Wrestling, boxing, UFC. Mike Tyson, I remember when I was a kid, Mike Tyson fights were so exciting. And then he's fighting Roy Jones, and I'm a big boxing fan just in general. I know everybody knows who Mike Tyson is, but only
I didn't know who that guy was, the other guy.
Yeah, boxing fans understand that Roy Jones in his time was so good. I mean, he was the best in the world. I mean, he pound for pound, he was not a heavyweight when he started. He was a middleweight. And he was so fast and so unorthodox. And Mike Tyson was so ferocious. He was exciting to watch for that. And Roy Jones was just such an amazing boxer. I never missed a fight. So them fighting together for me, that was like a dream match.
They were in the same time they were fighting together?
Yeah. So they started about a few years different. But again, Mike Tyson was a heavyweight and Roy Jones was fighting at middleweight. And then Roy Jones, over the course of time, he went up in weight. So he won the middleweight championship. Then he won the super middleweight championship. Then he won the light heavyweight championship. And then he won the heavyweight championship. And if I'm not mistaken, he was the first fighter to win those 4 weight classes. Or maybe it was the fact that he went up in heavyweight and won the championship and then went back down to light heavyweight and re-won that championship. And he was the first person to do that since 1897. So it was like a huge deal. He was so good. So for me, watching them fight, and then 17 years ago, Roy Jones actually called out Mike Tyson after he won his heavyweight championship. And then Mike Tyson was just kind of at the end of his career. Mike Tyson, 15 years ago, actually quit on the stool in his last fight. He was 6 rounds in and just said, I don't have it anymore. Like, I just don't have the fire for it. And he quit mid-fight and said, that's it. I'm not coming back. So him coming back and fighting Roy Jones was like a big deal. And they had some undercard fights. A couple of them were like really good heavyweight, like really good actual boxing matches that were fun to watch. And then they had a couple of them that were, they had this guy from Sacramento who was an up-and-comer fighting this guy named Badu Jack, who's been around the world and is just like a true professional, and he just torched him. The guy who from Sacramento, I can't remember his name.
Talking about on this pay-per-view event?
Yeah, there was 5 fights. And so
Well, let's
So
skip
him
to
fighting.
the Mike Tyson fight.
Well, hold on. I want to. There's something else I need to tell you before the Mike Tyson fight about this
Okay.
pay-per-view.
Because
So
welcome to
Badu Jack.
Stakes on 80s and 90s boxing.
Yeah. Anyway, credit to the guy. He stayed in the fight. It was they actually referenced him. They said Badu Jack is playing Apollo Creed and this guy is playing Rocky, because this guy was just beating him down and he could not put him down. Like, he couldn't knock him down. He hit him with some of the hardest shots. He had this big hematoma on the end of his head from getting hit so much, but he like wouldn't quit. The guy just wouldn't quit. He just kept fighting. So really, really kind of interesting to see, because in the 8th round, like, Badu Jack was really trying to put him down and he couldn't do it. So it was pretty, I mean, Badu Jack won convincingly, but still it was kind of interesting to watch. But then they had this celebrity fight, and it was Nate Robinson, who's an NBA star, fight this YouTuber who I've never heard of named Jake Paul. And apparently Jake Paul has actually been training to be a boxer for a couple years. And Nate Robinson has been training for a few months. And they talked all sorts of trash. And Jake Paul, I have not seen a knockout like that in like years. Jake Paul hit him and he went clean out, like went to sleep, knocked him clean out. Like they couldn't get him back on the stool for a few minutes. He was out cold. Yeah, it was rough. So anyway, Tyson.
Wait, the basketball guy beat the YouTube guy?
No, the YouTube guy won.
The guy
Yeah.
beat the basketball guy. Wow.
Yeah, and then the funniest thing was the YouTube guy. This was only a second professional fight. Then the YouTube guy he calls it out Conor McGregor afterwards. And I was like, okay, hold on. You just knocked out like an NBA guy with no experience. You're going to call out Conor McGregor? You're going to get murdered, like, what are you talking about? And so, but anyway, so then they had the final fight. The final fight was, I don't know. I mean, they're 54 and 51. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, what do you?
I watched the highlights video and I was like, I'm glad I didn't pay for this.
Yeah. I mean, look, as a boxing fan, it was fun to watch. There were flashes of brilliance. Mike Tyson looked like really good. I mean, for being 54, he still had power. And you could tell he hit Roy Jones a few times in the body, and like, man, Jones didn't take it well. And but they went the whole 8 rounds. They only did 2-minute rounds instead of 3, 8 rounds. And I mean, I guess you just had to accept that these guys are not in their prime, like, it just the announcer said something at one point. He's like, this is not a war for the ages, it's the war for the aged, like, these guys just but a couple things that I really liked about it was Snoop Dogg's commentary was hilarious. Like, it made it so much more fun. So they had Sugar Ray Leonard and they had Israel Adesanya, who is a UFC middleweight champion. And then they had Mauro Ranallo, who is a play-by-play guy. And then Snoop Dogg came on for the last fight. And oh my gosh, he was so funny. I mean, like, everything he said, he had enough boxing knowledge to be like, talk about real stuff, but then he would just say hilarious things. He's like, because he knew both of them. He's like, this is like 2 of my uncles fighting at the barbecue, just like stuff like that made me laugh so hard. So that was pretty good. Some things I didn't like about the fight. I didn't like, between each fight, they had about 20 minutes of just like a rapper would come out and rap for like 20 minutes. And it was like people you'd heard of, like Wiz Khalifa and Snoop Dogg, so they were guys who you knew, but
if it's not Vanilla Ice or MC Hammer, I didn't hear of them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I wouldn't expect you to.
Did MC Hammer come perform?
No.
Since it was like a callback to the 80s and 90s.
Well, Snoop Dogg, he was from the 90s, and he played his 90s hits. So that was kind of cool.
I couldn't name those songs. I just know the name Snoop Dogg and I know what he looks like.
Okay. So, but I just feel like it wasn't necessarily that I didn't like the music. It was more, it just kind of interrupted the flow, of the fights.
You wanted to hear "Coming to America." What was or
James Brown? Yeah, James Brown.
That's what you wanted between a fight.
But the thing that I think that made me the most angry was they didn't have the athletic commission was not going to give it an official decision because it was an exhibition, but they had 3 fighters come in and do unofficial scorecards, and they ruled it a draw.
Yeah.
And that made me so angry because I just was like, we want a winner. And you could tell afterwards, because they interviewed both of them afterwards, and you could tell that Mike Tyson was angling for a rematch. And so like he was like saying, oh, let's do this again then, you know, I think I won the fight. And then Roy Jones was like, well, I think I won the fight. But I think the funniest thing was Tyson was like, well, let's do it again, man. Let's do it again. And then you could tell Jones was kind of like, yeah, no, like, I don't want to.
He said he was good with a tie. Tyson did. He's like, I feel like I won, but I'm fine with a tie. We're in this for charity and stuff. It's like, okay.
Yeah, they did. But at the same time, like Roy Jones, you could tell he was like, because he said, he goes, yeah, this was a bucket list thing for me, but man, he hits hard. Like, I think afterwards, Roy Jones was more like, I don't want to get hit by him anymore. Because he hit him with some shots.
Like what's his name? Drago. He's like a piece of steel or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Tyson, he looked good. I didn't know that he had dropped 100 pounds for that fight.
Yeah, he did. And Joe Rogan was talking to him at the beginning and the end of his training. Like he had an interview with him, and it was really interesting. His mind changed from just within a year what all happened. And he was talking about the shadow boxing footage that came out, and he looked really good. You guys notice like this shadow on my tooth, the way I have the lighting makes it look like I have a big gap right there?
Nope, doesn't look like you have a gap at all.
You don't see it right in the middle there? Ashley, do you see it?
I'm really glad we're recording this.
It's like dark right here.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your fantastic lecture on the boxing match. I'm almost sorry I asked.
You asked, and this is an exciting topic for me. I love boxing, and it's not like the boxers now are not as exciting. I mean, Mike Tyson, when he fought, it was an event, like parties. Yeah. Everybody wanted to see him fight, and there's just not a fighter like that anymore.
It was like a fight night. It was fight night. That was like a big thing. Yeah.
Everybody wanted to see Mike Tyson fight.
Did this feel kind of like the last Rocky fight in that crappy movie that you love?
The fantastic second best Rocky? I think no, and the reason was because you could tell that neither one of them were fighting this for real. You know what I mean? Like you could tell it was an exhibition. It was hard sparring. And also this is just more realistic. Like, let's be honest, Rocky at 54 would get murdered by the world champion,
which is why dumb fight, dumb movie. Okay, let's move on. All right. So today for our personal study today, we're going to come back and follow up with our little assignments that we had from last week. And let's try and keep this a little tighter. I have a lot I could say about my assignment, but I want to start with, I can't remember what Ashley was supposed to watch. Ashley, what was your assignment?
Christmas Story.
Christmas Story. Let's hear it. Ashley, in all of her years on this earth, has never seen it.
Really? Okay.
Unless you don't want to go first. You need to collect your thoughts even more.
No. Just like, I didn't know you wanted to start. This is such a negative thing. So.
Wait till you get to me. Actually, I think all of us are probably on a similar page. Do you want to be, let's ask this, Ashley. Do you want to start mad at me or do you want to end mad at me?
I'm pretty sure I'm going to be mad at you either way. So don't
Should we just get it out of the way? Do you want me to
I'm already mad at you. That's that right there.
I haven't said anything. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I hate it more now as an adult than I did as a middle school person seeing it like all year long.
Why? What do you hate about it?
Story. That movie is awful. That kid is a horrible human being. He is a horrible human being. It's 1939. There's World War II going on. All he freaking cares about is his bloody self. Okay, America wasn't in the war yet, but it was going on.
His bloody what? His what?
World War II.
No, but his bloody, all he cared about was what?
His bloody self. He's like so self-centered, and he's a horrible friend. He like didn't bother to like, he throws his friend under the bus for the F word. He like, yeah, and it's like what the heck is like, you can't like be honest.
Schwarzenegger's mom calls.
Right?
I think that was my favorite part.
Can I hear smacking in the phone?
His mother is like an imbecile. I don't think there's anyone more offensive to women than her. I guess just
The mother?
she's an idiot. I'm sorry. She's a complete idiot. I don't like her at all. She's so
Let's
frustrating.
back up a little bit.
No. The only person who is actually relatively relatable is I can relate to the dad.
Santa
on
Claus?
lots of levels. The Santa Claus in that movie was offensive. Like I can't even elves.
That's what was so funny about it, though, was because you can see why the kids were so scared of him, because he was so bad, and the elves were such jerks. They're such jerks.
And I always interpreted Santa Claus as an exaggeration in Ralphie's mind. Like the kids, like it was just like his daydreams he has through the whole movie. I always felt that was kind of like an exaggerated moment with Santa Claus, that he wasn't necessarily that awful, but just this kind of their perception. But I don't know.
The one decent thing that Ralphie does is beat up the bully, and he only did that because he had a mental breakdown because he didn't get his way on his paper from his teacher. And it's like, you are a spoiled brat, and I don't like you at all. And it's like, you like look around, and it's like his dad is like working hard for his family, like in the freaking
his dad. I love his dad so much.
I love his dad. I feel so bad. Like his dad's like this wonderful person. I relate so much to the dad. It's not even funny. And like, don't even get me started on his brother. I just, oh no. I was like, oh, I hate this movie. Gosh. I hate it so much more than I did before.
Oh, Ashley. Okay, do you want me to say anything I like about it? You want me to defend any of it, or what do you think? What do you want to know? I don't know how to respond necessarily.
In the vein of Ralphie being such a jerk, one of my favorite scenes. First of all, let me just say, I think that the Ralphie being a jerk and the kids being jerks like that, I think that is really indicative of like male friendship. Like,
I think really Ashley's never been a 7-year-old boy before. Yeah, like that whole movie was really accurate.
He is 9. He's 9 years old.
Still, it doesn't matter. That happens when you're 35. Yeah. Like it's a
lie, a cover up. The icicle fell and hit him. Like the stuff about all he cares about his story. He imagines his thesis is the best. All that stuff.
Or even like, for example, like the part where the bully comes in and he's got one of the kids and they're like, hey, fend for yourself. You get caught by a bully, like we all take off. Like that's accurate.
Yeah.
But my favorite thing, and it's so like dead on of like the pact between males, is when Flick gets his tongue stuck to the thing, and then when they come in and like nobody ratted on anybody, and the teacher is standing right over knowing Ralphie did it, and he's like, whoever did this, I'm sure feels really bad, and he just goes he doesn't know what they're talking about.
His monologue says something like, he's like, we all know that's just a lie, we're off the hook.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it's
actually I don't know.
No,
I think
no. And the fact that the kid is so much of an idiot that he actually nearly shoots his eye out because he put a target on a metal sign. It's like, of course the baby's gonna ricochet. What is wrong with you? You don't deserve a gun. No.
Actually, let me tell you this. When I was, I want to say 11, 12-ish, I used to share a bedroom with my brother. We had 2 beds and like a dresser on the wall. It was a very narrow, small room. And I used to play with my Legos on like a little TV tray in the bin between the 2 beds. My brother and his friends used to sit there and mess with my Legos on my castles and stuff. It really pissed me off. But my brother had an air pistol back in the 90s that were popular. You got with a little
pellet gun.
Yeah, exactly. It was a pistol one. And his buddies used to hang out on his bed while we're watching movies and stuff and start picking off my Lego characters off my castle. It really made me mad because they broke one. And then one day I was down there by myself and I was like, but I want to try. So I got his gun. I sat on my bed, aimed at the thing, shot, it bounced off the wall and came right back. It literally hit me right between the eyes. And I thought immediately of the Christmas Story. I said, I am never going to shoot a gun again for the rest of my life because I was so scared. And I'm sorry, I was just as dumb as Ralphie, so I will defend how realistic that was. But I got to talk about two moments in that movie. The most humane and heartfelt moments that I think I really connect with it. 2/3, but two. One with the mother. After Ralphie snaps and beats up the bully, I don't think it was about his thesis. I mean, it's possible. I've never interpreted it that way. But he was just so fed up with his with the bully. When he beats up the kid, he's like pounding on his face. And a lot of times elementary school bullies, that's how they are. Like once one hit, they're down. It's all attitude and their bully persona. Once that's penetrated, they have nothing. A lot of them. So he's like pounding this kid, and then he starts crying. The emotional outlet of him just bawling because of this side of him that he's never experienced before, beating up on this kid. And when he starts crying, his mom comes. All his mom does, she doesn't get mad at him. She just takes him home and like washes his face and everything and helps him to just cool off. And she knows that he's a little traumatized by this. And when he's sitting there and then he comes down to the table and he's afraid his dad's going to come home and kill him, when his dad asks what happened today, and she just makes up whatever the little story about what happened to his glasses or whatever. When he realizes, what's the line? It became evident that my life wasn't about to end or something like that. Yeah. But that moment, that connection with him and his mother, that she understood that he was going through something very, very, very painful inside. And that was a very real thing. And I really appreciated that connection. What do you have to say about that? Because you're like, hang on a minute.
Okay, first of all, had she told the dad what he did, he probably would have thought his kid wasn't such a pansy and he probably would have given him some praise. The second thing, like, they didn't even give him the chance to like do that. The other thing, she left a bleeding child in the street because her child, who was a pansy, was crying because he got a C+ and the teacher wrote, "You'll shoot your eye out." That's what pushed him over the edge, is that she wrote that on the bottom of his paper. And he was having it
over. I think she knew
was in the wrong place.
She was like, he's just gonna go home. She took her kid home, and I think they were just like, hey, this is the end of it. I thought it made sense.
The thing is, though, is I know it's not kind of like this anymore because everyone's trying to stop anybody from being bullied ever. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but like kind of a rite of passage to like, get a bully to stop bullying you, and that was just the way that it happened for him. I didn't assign any sort of materialism or terribleness to it. It's just his way of, guaranteed that bully's not messing with anybody anymore. He or at least not messing with Ralphie anymore.
The little toad kid ran off on his own too, and he was like all mouth as well. I really appreciated that moment with him and the mom. I thought it was very genuine, a lot of good feelings. The stuff with the little brother when he's like hiding under the cupboard and he was afraid because Ralphie was going to be killed and all that stuff, and she like brings him his milk or whatever underneath the closet. In the cupboard. Things like that were really cute. I thought it was really human. My favorite. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I think that as a parent, sometimes I think what the other parent will do in certain circumstances. I know that like when I was a kid, I knew which parent to go to for which problem.
Yeah.
Because I knew who would freak out about what. I always knew that like little stuff that little things that I needed, like I'd go to mom because I don't know why, but my dad would always say no. But like big crazy things, my mom would never let me do, but my dad, for some reason, just like, yeah, that's fine. So yeah. I think that sometimes that's, it seemed to me like mom was protecting him from dad because everybody knew if he found out Ralphie got in a fight, he was a dead man, Yeah. And so now I'm with you, Ashley. My son comes home and I found out he beat up a bully who's been bullying him for months. I'd be like, high five.
Yeah.
Like, way to be a man. But, Ralphie's.
The moment with the dad, though, at the end of the movie, spoilers, for if you're anyone other than Ashley that's never seen this movie.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently,
come on, Tim, be accurate.
For real.
Your musings.
Anyway, the end of the movie where he thinks the presents are done and Christmas morning's over and the little brother's like passed out on the floor hugging his blimp.
Hindenburg, the freaking Hindenburg blimp. Like is
and Ralphie's sitting there and he's a little disappointed. The dad's like egging him on. He's giving these leading questions like, "Oh, didn't you get what you wanted? Well, there's always next year, whatever." And then he hints at the extra present in the corner. And when he comes out, how much light and excitement comes out of the dad while Ralphie is opening it up and it's all coming together. That is so genuine. It's so real. And like Josh just said, there's things that dad would do that mom would be like, no, and dad's the one that did it. And she's like,
you can tell that the
dad,
mom is not excited about that gun being
right.
there.
But the dad was literally the only good part of that entire movie. Throughout the whole thing, the dad is the only decent part of that whole movie.
Oh, I'm surprised you think that because he was so mean to those dogs. I watched it with my kids and I think it was my youngest daughter when the dog gets his ear slammed in the door.
Oh, I know. That's sad.
Like, oh, he was really trying to hurt those dogs. And I'm like,
yeah.
no.
No, the dog.
But yeah, but I love how he opens it. He's like, serves you right.
Right?
Best line of the movie, and I can't remember how exactly it is when they're looking at the lamp. And he goes, there's only one thing that could pull me away from the, what does he say, the illuminating sexuality in the window, or whatever the line is. That was so funny. What is it?
I was gonna say, like that's the other thing. It's like the dad worked so hard. He like won something. He finally had something all for himself. And then like, I mean, don't get me wrong, it was ugly, but like the wife has to go and ruin it.
Hey, that's been a controversy for years. Who knows what really happened?
You saw
God,
her eyes.
So funny.
I think that's a fragile there. All right, well, that's a little disappointing, but I get it. I thought you wouldn't like it because it was like dated and stuff. I didn't know you were gonna have all these like moral issues with the movie.
Oh, so many moral issues.
Yeah.
Selfish little brat.
So fun fact, Ashley, do you know who Ralphie is in the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
No.
Do you know, Josh?
I have no idea.
Like I feel like I've heard it before and I just don't know.
He was good friends with what's his name? The director of Iron Man that's doing Mandalorian. Not
Sounds
Dave.
Like you don't know who his character
Favreau. And he's the nerdy guy who used to work for Stark, the guy with the glasses in Spider-Man Homecoming, the one that like was controlling the gear and stuff. He had the white suit and the balding head and the glasses, and Mysterio was saying that he's one that developed the technology that Iron Man dismissed in the flashback scene. Remember, he was there with all his friends, and they're all telling him, "You used to do this in this movie, and you were in this movie." But his number one guy was the guy with the glasses that came and pulled the card at the end of the movie and snuck off. That's Ralphie.
That's the same actor?
Same guy.
I also believe that Ralphie plays an elf in Elf. He plays he plays the head elf that's talking to, I think he's the head elf who he's talking to Will Ferrell's character after he couldn't build the Etch-a-Sketches fast enough. And he's the one who's
right. I can't remember. But they did a sequel to this a few years ago. Did you watch it, Josh?
No, I refuse.
I didn't either. I didn't even care. But
no, although I did see that Daniel Stern was in it, and that gave me some hope. But I was like, no, not good.
Yeah, I didn't watch it.
Not going to carry on. Yeah. So anyway, moving on. Next one. Are you going? Or am I?
I'll go first because I think it'd be fun for John or Ashley and I to gang up on you for yours.
Oh,
so
great.
My assignment was what was the Christmas Rock? What was it? Family Stone. Family Stone. Okay.
Here we go.
This movie, I was a little very disappointed. I'll just say very, but very is a strong word. Slightly disappointed. Not just disappointed.
But it wasn't the Muppets?
That it wasn't the Muppets, yeah. No, because it was Fraggle Rock. I thought the movie would be about a rock. No,
Were you
here's the
upset
thing.
because
Really quickly.
you didn't
What?
cry? You just didn't cry.
I did not cry. Okay, there you go. You guys, I watched with a friend. And my friend was like, you'll cry probably more than once. And I said, okay, here we go. And I didn't cry once because this movie was trying to do too much. I feel like it was 3 movies or at least 2 movies happening at the same time. I felt like they were trying to go with all this cancer stuff to really get you, feeling all torn that this was going to be potentially their last Christmas and all that. And I felt like it was similar to that movie with Julia Roberts, Stepmom. Did you guys see that?
I love that movie.
Where it was like, here's a new person in the family. There's a little transition going on. Everyone's dealing with their emotions of their dying mother and everything. But like, it really drew on that drama with some lighthearted moments. At the same time, they're trying to throw this while you were sleeping relation or romance back or switch in there. And it was stupid. It didn't make sense. The main guy, what's his name? Mitchell or whatever, or Wayland, whatever the main guy is, the guy from My Best Friend's Wedding. He was in there and he knew the sister for less than it was like 12 hours that he knew her. And it turned into like, oh, we're falling in love. And what are you doing on news? All that stupid crap. I thought that was dumb. The relationship that kind of made sense was the other brother and Sarah Jessica Parker's character. There was nothing wrong with her. That's the other movie. It was Meet the Parents. No real family acts this way. They were complete dicks to her for no reason. And she was a little awkward. And I understand there were some deeper things where mom didn't feel like he knew who he was because she didn't seem to know who she was. I understood all that stuff they were trying to get to other than them being just a jerk family. But they didn't spend enough time on any of these things to really sell it and tie it together. There was like 2 conversations about the cancer, both of which were great. The scene where he was talking in the kitchen with the son and he's cried, fantastic performance. The scene on the bleachers where the other son cried, fantastic scene with the dad. And then the scene where they were trying to do this little montage of where everyone is at the end of the night and the parents are in bed. And then it cuts to the other brother and them making out in the tree or whatever, falling asleep. And then the other, whatever. And it was playing Julie Garland. I hate Julie Garland. All that stuff.
Judy Garland?
How do you hate Judy Garland?
I don't like her. I don't like her voice. I don't think she's
okay.
Tim,
sometimes I think you just are contrary for the purpose of being.
No, I've never liked her. Anyway, I like her.
Garland. Everyone likes Judy Garland.
I don't.
What did Judy Garland do to you?
I liked her in Wizard of Oz. That's it. Anyway, I just felt like they didn't focus and tighten up on any of those things that made it sell. The relationship between the brothers in While You Were Sleeping worked because you had plenty of time to see their romance develop, to see their relationship progress, and you see why she changed her mind on the one that she was attracted to. This one, it all happened on a dime with no time and nothing for the audience to really see that gave us a convincing reasoning for why she would feel that way about the other brother. I liked how the one brother took her to the bar, got her to loosen up and everything. I understood that, and that's the only one that kind of had some motivation and some development that I could see. But the other brother with the sister, it was just forced and it was stupid. And you know how I am with plot, you know how I am with crying. And when I'm sitting here watching the last 15 minutes of the movie saying this is going to happen, the bus is going to stop, she's going to get off the bus, blah, blah, blah. And then, and I said at the end, it's going to zoom in on the picture from the Christmas present. If I'm calling out your movie, it's a pretty obvious and lazy plot. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, hold on. Here's something I would say about that. Okay, and that is, just because it's predictable doesn't mean it's not. It doesn't mean
I agree, but I'm just saying it was all cliche. Everything that was happening was cliche and things that I had seen in 3 other movies. And I couldn't feel emotional about it. And I wasn't going into it like I'm going to hate this movie. I thought it was going to be really, really good. But I didn't feel like anything was generating enough emotion for me to really invest in any of it. And on the opening, there was so many conversations and characters in and out. And I was like, okay, who's this and who's this and who's this? And that's fine. There were more characters in here that were necessary. and where you have the husband that wasn't there bombing in at the end. Oh, what's her name making out in the ambulance for? Like all that stuff. Like all those characters were not necessary. And the Christmas Day. I'm sorry, there's a little kid here trying to open presents, and they're having all these adult fights and conversations and stupid chases. And oh, they're gonna go, and she's gonna slip on the mess and everything. And then it just cuts to later on that night. Sarah Jessica Parker is still wearing the outfit that she like made a big mess all over her, but everyone else is all showered and retired in their own bedrooms and everything. It's like, what happened all day? It's been Christmas Day, and they had all this stuff going on in the morning, but then skips to like 12 hours later, and now we're finally going to have these conversations that we apparently forgot about the rest of the time. And it was stupid. It didn't make sense. These hijinks didn't work. I didn't it pulled me out. I wasn't interested, and I tried, Ashley, I'm sorry. And I didn't cry at the end. I was like, and I said, oh, is this going to be like a few years later? And she's like, no, it's the next Christmas. I'm like, okay.
Well,
and there it is.
I mean,
there they all are. I said, Mom's not going to be there. And at the very end, it's going to go to the photo.
We understand that you don't like good movies. So here's the thing, though.
Let's get to yours in a second.
I can't believe that like you didn't feel anything. I remember the scene. They're and it's been a long time since I've seen this movie, so I might not get it completely accurate. But there are one scene that always sticks out to my mind because one of the kids is gay and deaf. And,
I loved him.
Yeah, and
he is in real life. I looked it up.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. And Sarah Jessica Parker is basically saying something along the lines of like, and I understand what she was trying to say. Like, you wouldn't necessarily wish all of the hardships that come along with that on your child, right? But like, it was coming out like, boy, I wouldn't want my kid to be like that, you know? And clearly like she was being awkward, and I think that was being kind of trying to be shown, right? Is that like she's being misunderstood and they are taking offense to it, and you know, she's just one of those people that it's really hard for her to articulate what she's really trying to say, and it's very obvious. But my favorite line in that movie, my favorite thing is the mom stands up for the kid who obviously is feeling very awkward about it and basically looks at him and says, "You are perfect just the way you are," you know? And like, I remember thinking that, and I'm like, I'm going to make sure no matter what my kids do, that's how they feel.
Right.
You know, because not his fault, that he's, you know, that he has same gender attraction or whatever you want to call it. And it's not his fault that he's, you know, that he's deaf.
And there's nothing wrong. Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that at all, you know?
Before
and so
actually, I just want to say, I agree with you, Josh. And as that scene was happening, I was like, I love that because her counterpoints, or what she was trying to say that she wasn't articulate, she wasn't getting out, you know, without being offensive in their eyes. Those are legitimate concerns and arguments for that same issue 15 years later, because that was 2005. That was way ahead of its time for those arguments, and those are the same things that are being talked about with same-sex attractions now. And right now it's not taken as like this big offensive thing, like they were treating it. Now, if they had welcomed her into the family a little more open-armed in the beginning, and then little scenes like that happened to show why they started not liking her and not approving of her, that would have generated a little more reality that I could see why they don't like her. But they were just dicks. Anyway, what are you going to say? But I did like that scene a lot, Ashley. Or Josh, go ahead.
No.
Tim, you're just wrong.
Okay, moving on.
You are very wrong. That's very like a real family. Like,
no.
To just be
create those judgments based on the meaning of one. What?
Depends on your family, but yes.
Well, yeah. I mean, like it's very likely for a real family to behave that way. You know, one person doesn't have to like someone, and then all they have to do is like spread that around. And then not everyone is going to be welcoming without judgment. It's going to be, they're going to, you know, come in, and they saw that she wasn't for their son. They saw that. It was completely obvious. And like, it's not
they
like
weren't even out of the car before they were at the window staring and mocking her. I was like, these guys are just dicks. Like, who asked that?
That's so accurate. ignorant though. How is that not like what really people do? I do that all. I mean, joking, but I do that.
Her face, because then as soon as she stepped in the door, they were dicks right to her face. They weren't even trying to hide it. People don't act like that. That was just a very extreme version of it.
I don't know who you hang out with, but yeah, they do.
I don't know a single family that like would have someone invited over for Christmas and be complete jerks to them right in their face, like not even being subtle about it, and still like pretend that they're a good family. That's the most horrible people ever. If that's the way.
Tim, I want to personally invite you to my family Christmas.
I met your family and they loved me.
Then come to my family.
I'm just saying, if anyone looks at that family and says that's what people are really like, then they need to find new friends because they were horrible to him. Same thing with
I don't agree with that because the thing is I feel like that was dead on. Like, family is messy. Like that's the thing. Like that, I think that is what that movie is all about. Is that family is messy. It's no family is perfect. We're all dysfunctional.
I know that. And that's why again, if they were a little more realistic, like let's find out or get to know her a little bit or something, or show or have some conversation talking about previous situations, why they don't trust her, why they don't like her opinions and everything, why they disagree with her, and then show that coming to fruition in the dinner table with the homosexual argument or conversation, then that shows the audience, oh, that's why they don't trust her. But they didn't do that. They're like, oh, we're just dicks. And then this happened. So now we're justified in being dicks.
I think the difference here, Tim, is that like, I think it's not that you just don't like the characters. Like that you just wouldn't like, you would not like that family. I personally, I'm like, I'm comfortable with those people. Like that is what I'm used to.
I like the gay couple. They were awesome. They were really awesome.
So no joke, I'm going to tell you a personal story. So one time I was sitting in a ward council and my dad was in there because I think I was the elders quorum president and he was like, I don't know who he was, but he was someone involved too. So we were all in a ward council together and we were kind of just bantering back and forth. I was making fun of him. He was making fun of me. And the bishop said something along the lines of, I bet Thanksgiving dinner at your house is pretty harsh. And there was somebody there who had come to dinner at our house one time and he was like, Bishop, it's brutal. Like he's like, it's like prison rules over there. He's like, nothing is sacred. And that is exactly what it's like. And so that's
to other members of the family. Your family wouldn't treat a stranger the way that this family did.
We have.
Yeah, they would.
Well, there you go.
I mean, within 5 seconds, if we like, you got 5 seconds to make an impression, and then it just down spirals from there. Yeah, it's
the last scene on Christmas morning where it was coming out who was spending time with who and what happened the night before, all that stuff. And they try to play out this big comedic reveal step by step by step, and everyone being mad at each other. That was the exact same thing that happened at the end of While You Were Sleeping. Only it was done tastefully and better with the score, with editing and everything, where it was like, I don't love him, I love her, and here's what's happening, and everything was coming out on the table and in front of everybody. It was the same scenario, only it worked in While You Were Sleeping because you had time to understand where these characters were coming from and what their motives were. This one is just slapped together. We have to force this romance. We had to force this argument. We have to force this character not trusting this character. And you're supposed to be triggered by the cancer and make it just work. And it just didn't work. But anyway, why in my house?
Have you honestly never created a connection with someone that you've never seen before? Like you saw them instantly, you just have a connection. You've never had that before, ever.
I would be the biggest jerk in the world if I broke off an engagement and put the ring on a girl I just met who was her sister.
No, we're not going there yet. Not yet. I'm talking about the bus scene that you were so offended by. You were so offended that he saw her for like 2 seconds and had like this moment when Julie was on the bus.
That's not the point. I'm saying that if you're going to do that in a movie, you need to spend some time developing that, like in While You Were Sleeping. The morning where she woke up and saw Jack come in the door and everything, and he saw her and he looked at her. He's like, "Who's Lucy?" All that stuff. That was done really well. And then you got to see them kind of, and he tries to sneak out, or she tries to sneak out, and he stops her at the door and everything. Like, hey, there's some chemistry here. Nothing in this movie.
That's no. He didn't believe her. He thought she was a liar. That's
Okay.
why Jack was. We're not talking about why they were sleeping. We're talking about Family Stone. And
It was more. Okay, yeah, you're right. I should have watched while you were sleeping, by the way. Anyway, it didn't work for me.
I've seen both, and I actually like Family Stone better.
That's
So
fine, but you haven't watched it in years. That's fine, and it's not a comparison. I'm just saying that I've seen the things they were going for work better in other movies. I just didn't like it.
no, I disagree. But then again, I mean, I tend to like movies that are messy. Like I love you. I know you didn't like Parenthood. I love that movie.
I like Parenthood. We talked about Parenthood.
Okay.
It's not one I watch regularly, but I like it. It's got some really good, solid stuff in it. Important,
the
relevant.
TV series?
No, there was a movie before the TV series that the TV series is based on, and the movie's great. If you haven't seen it, you should watch that. But that's another conversation.
That's
If
a
you-
confessional waiting to happen right there.
If you like Family Stone, you will like Parenthood for sure.
I watched some of the seasons, but I never knew it was a movie. So
Yeah, watch the movie because the movie I didn't really ever get into the TV series, but the movie is fantastic.
Well, wait,
Steve
we'll
Martin.
talk about it on the show because that's definitely one that we need to have Ashley watch for the show.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, I'm sorry, just didn't like it. So now let's focus our attention on Josh, who had a magical experience watching One Magic Christmas. What'd you think?
Okay, so first, before I tell you what I thought, how did this, do you know when this was first aired? It never came in theaters. I'm wondering why I've never seen it before. Like,
I remember seeing it on TV as a kid, like not in the theaters. I don't know.
Like, you remember that, what did they used to call it? Like on Saturday nights or something like that, Disney would have like a special and they called it Wide World of Disney or something like that.
Yeah,
or the
where they put movies.
And they would show a movie. This seemed like a movie that would have been premiered then, like during a Christmas special or something.
I was just looking around for my phone so I could look it up, and my phone's right here.
So, okay, so I actually did like the movie. I didn't think it was bad. Yeah, I didn't think it was bad at all.
He was trolling us, Ashley.
Yeah,
welcome
back, Die
He was
Hard.
trolling us. He was like on Facebook, worst movie ever.
Oh no, that was just you, Tim. I sent a message to Tim saying worst movie ever.
I didn't hear anything.
Okay.
No, it was good. I think it had a good message. You get the feels. I agree. The Santa Claus was really good. I liked the whole idea of the North Pole not being with elves, but being with people who've passed on. I thought that was really kind of a nice little spin to make it kind of more Christmassy and kind of more linked to heaven, I guess. You know, the idea also, I liked the idea that Santa Claus, because he is Saint Nicholas, right? Like Santa Claus being more linked to kind of a God style, you know, like a saint of gods, that it all is kind of interconnected. So I thought that was a good way to connect it, because I think, you know, when we think about Christmas, because even people who aren't Christian will celebrate,
it's more like a fairy tale.
Yeah, the meaning of Christmas, the true meaning of Christmas tends to get kind of lost. So I like that they brought that in to the movie. And I love what's her name? I had it before, but I don't remember her name now. But the actress, she did such a great job.
Yeah.
And man, when like I actually audibly went, oh no, when the car went over the bridge. I was like, oh, this poor woman, you know, like
right? Because that's the thing, the move, like we said, it's so slow in developing it, but the emotions all pay off because they set up how desperate of a financial situation this family's in and how tight they are and how broken she is emotionally, especially about Christmas, and how that's affecting her family. And he's the one that's the spirit of the family with all the heart and trying to keep things fun. And then when he's out of the picture, it's like, oh, holy cow.
So what I also liked, another thing I liked of that with that movie, was I liked how, you know, there's that scene at the mailbox where all the lights start going off, but it's early enough in the movie that you kind of forget about it towards the end. So you don't kind of realize what's going on until the lights come back on. And so then when the lights come back on, that's when you're like, oh, okay. So this is because when they're saying, oh, your mom can bring him back, I'm like, well, how's she going to do that? You know what I mean? Like that, how are they going to make that leap? So seeing that, that it was all kind of not a dream, but kind of like, yeah, I didn't see that coming. So I thought that was that was a pretty good thing. One thing that I thought was fun.
Do we just want to talk about it? Are we spoiling it or no?
Well, I mean, I think I kind of spoiled it a little bit, but surprisingly, the people I've talked to about this movie since we talked about it, everybody seems to have seen it, which is interesting. Yeah.
I never hear it come up in Christmas movies, and it's
it was really interesting. But the other thing that I thought it was really funny was I think it was my son who were watching it, and the scene where Gideon comes up to the kids and starts talking, he's like, yeah, that's totally normal. Some old man coming up and talking to kids. Nobody's going to be worried about that. Right. I was like, that's a good point. But then I said to him, I go, well, wait a minute. He is an angel, so he carries a different spirit to him. That would probably make sense. Like why people are talking to this creepy guy, who comes up and talks to him.
Sitting on the tree, playing a harmonica. Like he was a cool character. I really liked Gideon.
And I loved the explanation on how he became a Christmas angel and all that. Like he was a good person and all that when he was alive. So anyway, I thought it was a good movie. There was nothing I would really complain about it. The one thing I kind of questioned afterwards though is I was like, well, how the reasons that you guys told me you didn't like A Wonderful Life, I didn't understand why you didn't like A Wonderful Life, but you like this movie, because this movie is so sad up until the very, very end. Like everything that happens is so sad. Like it's depressing and it's slow. So like watching it, I'm going like, oh my gosh, I just want to like, she's such a buzzkill, like the whole movie. You know what I mean? Like everything that the dad is wanting to do, like all the dreams. He's like, let's just we have $5,000. And in the 80s, that's a lot of money. You know what I mean? It's like, he's like, we got $5,000. Let's just take a couple $100 and buy some Christmas gifts. A couple $100? Are you crazy? And he's like, you know what I mean? Or like, he's like, I want to open this bike shop. And she's just like, are you insane? We're not going to do that. Blah, 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 blah. He's just like such a bummer. You know what I mean? And so, you guys, the things I heard in the movie or in our last thing was that you guys were just saying like, it was so sad. It was so like, I didn't get any redeeming thing out of it.
No, the reason why I didn't like It's a Wonderful Life is that scene where his boss beats him to his ear bleeds. That's the scene. It pushed me over the edge, and I can't do it. It kills me every time. So that's the reason why I can't watch the movie. If I could fast forward that scene, I'd be fine. But
okay, well, I'm guessing the reason Tim doesn't like it is just because he doesn't like good movies, as evidenced by his response to Family Stone. So yeah.
I couldn't tell you why I like one versus the other. I think what I like about I was gonna say I like how it has a connection with the religious, spiritual aspect of it with the angels and the way they tie that in with the Christmas stuff, the actual things like Santa Claus and things. But I guess It's a Wonderful Life does a similar thing. So
very similar.
I don't know. Next year I'll sit and I'll watch the two of them and I'll answer that question. But I'm not going to watch It's a Wonderful Life this year. No, I don't know. I don't remember well enough to be able to answer that. But I know you don't cry at movies, Josh, because you're too big of a man. But did you feel the emotions that you would have if you were a normal person with a heart?
Yeah, I mean, I felt good when he came back. Like I felt genuinely
ruined it.
I felt genuinely sad for when the kids we thought the kids had died. And then, man, like heart-wrenching scene is when she's trying to explain the death to the kids.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That's so real. It's so real.
The way the boy is acting especially is like so sad, like he's just sitting there with his hands in his pockets, trying to keep it together, trying not to cry. Like you could tell it seems as Yeah, it seems as though he's had conversations with his dad about being like a man. You know what I mean? He's trying to be a man and hold it in. At that point. And so it just yeah, that was a hard scene. But yeah, like I said, I mean, I didn't. I was just surprised that I'd never heard or seen it until you guys had brought it up. Like I was just really surprised.
Well, that
Um,
makes me happy. I'm really glad that you liked it.
well, I'm really surprised that you suggested a movie that wasn't terrible. I mean, like really. I mean, this is still not redeeming Zorro the Gay Blade, but it's still
Come on, Zorro the Gay Blade is awesome.
I have this much more hope in your recommendations. So
I say my favorite part is I don't want to say it, but Christmas, the very last scene, or second, I can't remember if it's where it ends the story, but I think it's the last scene with Santa Claus.
Yeah, that's a good scene.
That
Yeah.
was so good,
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah,
Just the emotions and the act of the performance and just the acceptance and her watching her change over with the Christmas spirit was just as effective and well done in this movie as any other version of a Christmas story I've ever seen. It was so transparent of both sides of it. And you're right, she was just a nag and a drag the first 90% of the movie till the very end. You're like, oh, she is so wonderful.
Even like the parts where, you could tell that the husband was trying hard, like, she was the most beautiful woman I've ever met, blah, 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 like all these things. And she
He's
just,
a good man.
just like stone cold, just, it was really interesting. But anyway, so yeah, there you go.
Awesome. Glad you liked it. Good job, Ashley. High five.
Yeah, if it was just Tim's recommendation, I probably never would have watched.
Wouldn't have bothered with it.
But since I had two, I was like, okay, well maybe there's something to this movie. And then,
well, that's awesome. Did your kids like it? Because it's kind of dated. I made my kids watch it last year because Disney Plus was brand new, and that was the biggest thing I was excited about was that movie. If you go back and watch our list, I was so excited about that movie being on there because you can't find it. I don't think it's on Blu. I know it's not on Blu-ray. I don't think, and I think it's very hard to find on DVD. What?
I
Ashley?
just bought a second one because I tried watching it today and I opened it and my DVD was gone. Like I have my case, but my DVD is not there.
DVD.
Lost it. Yeah.
It's hard to find.
I think so. If I'm not mistaken, my youngest, he just couldn't stick
with it because
Yeah,
it's long and slow. It's a slow burn.
but the older ones watched it. Yeah, and I didn't hear anybody saying they didn't like it. I didn't hear any complaints. So, they see enough stuff from the 80s and stuff because of me that like they're used to old movies, and so I don't think that they were.
If they can sit with you and watch Rocky 1, I think they could handle.
They have, and Ferris Bueller and.
Oh, that's not a slow movie. I'm talking about slow burns. All right. Well, I think that was a successful homework assignment. I'm glad we did that. And that was a long discussion, but I think it was very worth it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, tonight, let's just go through these kind of quickly. We were just going to talk about some Christmas TV specials. Before we do that, though, I forgot. I have an honorable mention on my list from last week that I completely forgot about, and I wanted to kill myself because I couldn't believe it. And before we started recording, Josh was talking about Dana Carvey, and that's not what prompted my memory, but it was just a coincidence that one of my all-time favorite movies, I don't think it would bump anything on my list, but it's just as good, and that is Trapped in Paradise. Have either of you seen Trapped in Paradise?
No.
Nicolas Cage, John Lovitz, and Dana Carvey are three brothers, and they go into a town to pull a bank robbery, and they get stuck in this town trying to escape, and it's hysterical and full of Christmas heart. And I don't want to say anything more about it. If you guys haven't watched it, I really think that you guys need to try and watch it for Christmas and talk about it. It's hilarious and it's very emotional, very good. Not very emotional, but it's really good. It's emotional and Christmassy.
Did you cry?
I don't think I cry when I watch it, but there's a couple really heartfelt moments. I mean, I cry, I bawl like a baby. So yeah, watch it. Trapped in Paradise. We'll come back to this, but that is one of the greatest Christmas movies ever, and it's freaking hilarious and awesome. And yeah, so just want to mention that. Okay, TV specials that are about the Christmas spirits. And Josh, we forgot about 8 Crazy Nights. Do you watch that on your holiday traditions?
So yeah, you know, I don't
as a Christmas movie, even though it's Hanukkah.
I don't not like it. Like I like it. It's funny, but I wouldn't put it anywhere near my top 7. Like it's
I thought you were a huge Adam Sandler fan. I thought we've talked
I
about
do
this.
like Adam Sandler's earlier stuff, but that movie. So funny story about that. When we were gonna go, me and my best friend were gonna go see that movie, and we were kind of unsure. We're like, do we really want to spend the money to go see this in the theater? And and so we're like, well, let's look up a review. And we looked up a review, and the reviews were so bad. And we read one, and they were like, this is a terrible movie. The only people who like this movie are people who like boob and poop jokes. And I was like,
oh, come on.
I was like, that sounds like it's right up our alley. Let's go see it. And so
and what do you think? There's no boob jokes in it.
Yeah, the whole thing about the fat kid wearing the bra and all that.
That's not boobs. That's guy boobs. That's not the same things. There's plenty of poop and urine jokes, though. But the thing with Whitey at the end, and they all come and they throw their numbered banner at him, whatever it was.
I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but yeah,
it's amazing. The song or this little rap about the mall and everything. It's so good. Anyway, I like it. Good movie.
But I don't even think it deserves an honorable mention towards the top 7. But it's a good movie. You should see it. Like people should watch it, and I would watch it if it comes on TV. But it's not something every single year I make sure to watch.
I might cry if I watch it. I think it's on my cry list.
Of course it is.
Ashley, have you seen it? 8 Crazy Nights? Do you even know what we're talking about?
I know what you're talking about. I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
we'll watch it.
We'll cry at Adam Sandler's 8 Crazy Nights, but not Family Stone.
There's something wrong with you, Tim.
The stuff with his parents dying and all of that. Like when he opens the card during the song, and it's like their dying thing was they were trying to get to his basketball game and everything. It's emotional. It's really good. And then everyone celebrates Whitey, who they make fun of the whole movie. It's so good. Sorry to spoil something, Ashley. Anyway, all right.
Just so we're clear, guys, everybody watching this, it's not emotional at all.
Okay. It's emotional. All right. Okay, TV specials, Christmas specials. So we didn't want to do a top 7 list. We're just going to throw out some that we enjoy. I'm going to throw out several that I'm sure you guys have never seen before, because that's what usually happens. On this list, so I would include the Frosty the Snowman.
Night Court episode?
The seasons I have access to, I don't think there's a Christmas one. There's plenty of Halloween ones. Anyway, but Frosty the Snowman and Rudolph, I count all those Christmas specials more than movies, but we talked about some of those last week. You guys haven't watched this, I'm sure, but Red Skelton, back in the day of his show, he had a character, Freddy the Freeloader. I hope you guys know who Red Skelton is. Famous.
Dude, but I haven't watched much of his stuff, but I know who.
That's fine. A lot of people haven't. But his homeless character that like kind of had clown makeup was Freddy the Freeloader. There's a movie that's it's like 60 minutes or whatever. That's Freddy the Freeloader's Christmas Dinner, I think is what it's called. And it's a really emotional, I'm not going to say like it makes me cry or anything, but it's a very good, heartfelt and old time comedy special about his performance. It's a lot of clowning. He does some pantomiming and stuff, little skits and little pieces throughout. Fantastic dialogue, funny jokes, a lot of silent pieces, a few songs, just the way his old variety show used to be. And it's really good. And if anyone has that, it's on DVDs. I have like 2 copies of it, and from different sets. But if anyone has access to watch Red Skelton, Freddy the Freeloader's Christmas Dinner, it's fantastic. And And I don't know, it's if you like old time humor. Some people don't like Red Skelton. I think he's all heart and very on brand for this channel. The Chipmunks. You guys remember the Chipmunks Christmas?
I remember it happening. I don't remember anything about it.
Ashley, were you not a fan? I didn't care
No, I
about
remember
the
it.
Chipmunks.
Chipmunks.
What do you remember about it?
Just the songs. I mean, like I
Which
don't.
one?
What?
Do you not remember the story?
No, I don't remember the story. I remember the song.
I remember the story. It's this whole situation where the Chipmunks are celebrating Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Idiot.
It was a good
No,
one.
it's a good story because Alvin wants to get the Golden Echo harmonica from the department store. And I haven't watched it in years. I'm trying to remember this. But he's trying to raise money to get the Golden Echo harmonica to play for his solo when they're going to play at Carnegie Hall or whatever. And Dave thinks that all Alvin cares about is money, but really the money is to get the Golden Echo harmonica to give to another kid who's like sick in a hospital or something, and he wants him to play the harmonica. And Alvin's just trying to raise money to get this for the sick boy. And Dave thinks that he just doesn't have the spirit of Christmas, and so he's trying to, give it to him. And it's just really good. It has good little moments and good songs with the boys trying to do different things, trying to raise money, and it has a dream sequence where Alvin meets and discovers the spirit of Christmas. But climax at the end where Alvin is sitting there at the mall defeated and he can't get it. And then an old lady comes up and gives him money or buys it for him, and he plays a song. And then all these people gather and listen to him play the song. And then all of a sudden it cuts to the North Pole, and you have Santa Claus sitting there on his couch coming back from Christmas night. And then Mrs. Claus is sitting there on the couch, and he says, "What did you do today, dear?" And it reveals, oh, it's her. It was the old lady. She's like, "Oh, nothing. I just hang out." And then she goes, "You need to get out of the house once in a while. Go see what's out there," or something like that. And she's like, "Yes, I do, huh?" or whatever. And the whole point is that she goes out and does good without his even knowing it. And she's just full of heart, just like a nice old lady. But it's good. It's emotional and musical. Everyone should go watch the Chipmunks Christmas special. I think that's what it's called.
Very emotional.
Very emotional. Does this ring any bells, Josh?
Nope.
Nope. Right.
I stopped tuning out a few minutes ago.
Anyway, it's good, and it's got some good moments. And then at the end, they play Carnegie Hall with the boy who was sick and everything. It's lovely. Ashley, are you a Full House fan?
I watched some of them. I didn't watch it completely.
All right. Well, I'm just gonna say the Full House season, I think it's 2, maybe 3, where they have a Christmas episode where they're trapped at the airport. And they have Christmas there, and they're all mad because they can't get to their presents, and their presents are in the luggage and everything and all that stuff. And Santa Claus won't find them, and the kids are freaking out, and everyone's got a big bummer. And then all of a sudden, Uncle Jesse has to come out and cheer everyone up with the Christmas spirit and remind them of what's really important. And then there's an old man who's a really cranky guy there, and all of a sudden he gets spirited and vanishes, and then all of a sudden, down the conveyor belt comes the bag of presents, and they have Christmas morning in the terminal. It's so fantastic. It's on Hulu. Everyone go watch it. Better than any crap on that new Fuller House show. Josh, go watch it.
I'll get right on it.
All right. The only other one I wanted to talk about is Alf. Were either of you Alf fans?
I liked Alf, but I can't remember the Christmas special. But I do like Alf.
I'd watch it when I had insomnia.
Okay.
I gotta go to sleep. I turn on Alf.
No, like it was on. It was
Hey,
like,
Josh,
what was
you
it,
need
Nick
to
at
turn on
Night or
Cheers
something
to
like
go to
that.
sleep.
I did. I love that show.
Mhm.
Cheers
Okay.
is awesome.
I just want to say that one of the most guaranteed ways for me to cry is to watch the Alf Christmas special. I don't want to spoil anything. I don't want to say a word about it. I want you guys to watch it. It's really weird on Prime. I saw that it's on Amazon Prime, It's a 2-part episode, so it's about 40 minutes. The first half is on Prime. The second half is not available on Prime. You have to
What
like
jerks?
it's serious, and it's not. It's the same season too. I'm so
sorry, but you
confused.
know what? Like, screw you, Jeff Bezos. Like, what are you doing?
I looked at it because I wanted to watch it. I have them on DVD, so I'm fine. But I want you guys to watch the Alf Christmas special, and it has one of my most favorite moments in all, just like the Spirit of Christmas stuff in One Magic Christmas and different aspects of what people love. The morning of Scrooge, of Uncle Scrooge, coming out in Christmas Carol, the bell ringing thing, and that other crappy movie that Josh likes, It's a Wonderful Life, the mail sequence in Miracle on 34th Street. There's one iconic moment in the Alf Christmas special that to me is right up there in the top 3, and I don't want to ruin anything. I want you guys to watch it, and we'll come back and talk about it, and I'll share with you what my favorite aspect. But it's an emotional and a really, really good show, and it's hilarious too. It's all got all the Alf fun in it, but it's also got some very emotional.
So just so I'm clear, you are saying there is a moment so iconic in Alf that you put it up there with
All those
Miracle
things.
on 34th Street, It's a Wonderful Life, and the Alf Christmas special.
As far as emotion and capturing an aspect of Christmas that's very important, yes, 100%. And this isn't just me up in the night like usual. It's really good. So watch it, and we'll talk about it. And I know I'm sure you'll agree with me because you always do.
I really can't wait to be like, my Mount Rushmore of iconic moments. Miracle on 34th Street, Wonderful Life,
Alf.
White Christmas, and the Alf Christmas special.
And it's right up there with the White Christmas when the general walks in and everyone's like, "Get up!" and all that stuff. It's right there.
I have a prediction.
Here we go.
I have a prediction that it is not that iconic.
Okay.
Okay.
Ashley, are you going to watch it? Are you up for it?
Sure.
Excellent. All right. Well, Ashley, that's my number one. That's my number one favorite, all-time favorite Christmas special. In fact, when I used to be department training at a bank, I won't say which bank, and I had a class, and it was during the Christmas season. We usually used to watch during like our lunch break. We'd have during the Christmas time, we'd let them watch a movie. Usually it was like Mr. Bean Christmas, which is an excellent one, by the way. Mr. Bean Christmas.
Mr. Bean Christmas
So good.
is a good one.
The nativity sequence where he's playing with the figures, out of this world hilarious.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was telling this class, because movies always came up in my classes. I was telling my class that about one of my favorite Christmas movie or shows was the Alf Christmas special. None of them had ever heard it. No one had seen it. And they all were so curious about why I loved it so much. And they begged me to let them watch it. I don't work for this company anymore. So I can say that I finally, after like a week of them begging me, agreed to let them watch it while I was grading or doing some paperwork and stuff. Because I said, I can't watch it while I'm in the day I'm like trading because I will bawl. And so I sat in the back of the room facing away from it, let them watch it. And I turned around and they all kept looking at me because they knew which parts I was going to be crying. And I was getting emotional. And then I would turn around, I'd see them in the dark room crying. I was like, I told you. And then at the end, we had a big discussion about it. But that's one point where I proved it right. It's one of the greatest Christmas specials of all time. And yeah, I didn't even have to watch it and I bawled. Anyway. So we'll come back and talk about it. Okay, before we get to Josh, had a couple of things. Ashley, did you have anything to contribute to this conversation? Because you specifically said, I don't like Christmas specials.
I usually skip them all, but I like, yeah. But no, I love
Tim's. Real quick, I just love Tim's Ashley voice. It just so.
It's very accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should watch the Family Christmas Stone. It's so cute.
Ashley, I hope you develop a Tim voice. I really do.
It's gonna be way more annoying, I'll tell you that. Okay, go ahead. What did you think?
Okay.
Or what did you want to say?
So I did like the Christmas season 3 episode like 10 or something from Friends when Joey's working at the Christmas tree lot and Phoebe comes to like see them, and she sees them like throw the dead tree in the chipper, and she freaks out.
What's the chipper? That sounds good.
Yeah. And she's like, and then the tree doesn't get to fulfill its Christmas destiny. And so she's all sad. And then, you know, Joey and Monica, they bought all the dead Christmas trees and like filled the apartment so she could like be really excited. And I like that. Like, that's like me. It's like,
That's a good one.
hey, yeah. So there you go.
She's like,
I
don't
can
call it the
take it.
chipper.
That's the only
it?
one. That's the one.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, you know, yeah, that's like the one Christmas special that I actually really, really like.
Well, tell us why you don't like Christmas specials. You had some thoughts about that.
Okay, because like they usually make them really schmaltzy or stupid or materialistic, and I don't like that. Like,
schmaltzy. I'm gonna have to Google that. This is gonna keep
Google the
coming.
word. Yeah, it will. I will say it a lot. But yeah, you know, like, okay, so like for example, like I love The Office. Like I love The Office. But like, you know, and honestly, like I'm like Michael Scott's like great. I love Michael Scott as a boss. I mean, he's hilarious. Except the Christmas ones, it's like it gets all materialistic. You know, he talks trash on everyone else's gifts, and you know, he has to like, you know, be better than everyone else. It's just, and that's just how the theme is like for most Christmas specials, like most of them. Or they have to turn something stupid on it, you know, like throw some weird twist on things, and they're usually just weird. So I usually just skip them, and or they don't go with anything. Like I love Friends, and then there's another one where they all decide to like make holiday resolutions, and then Rachel all of a sudden is a gossip, and it's like she never gossips, but in this episode, you know what I mean? Like it's like things. The Christmas ones just usually are dumb, so just
they didn't establish when they don't establish things, and they just like kind of give Pete character flaws just for to work this one episode, and it has nothing to do with anything else. And I agree with you. I'm not a big fan of the Christmas episodes of The Office. They're not particular favorites. I think they kind of drag, and they're always two-parters. I'm like, come on, let's just move on with this story. Anyway, okay. So taking my Full House episode where they're trapped in an airport terminal, and Ashley's like, that's stupid. All right. Anyway, okay. I'm not like dismissing. It's just it's an interesting thought, and I don't necessarily not agree with you. In some cases, I agree with you. Okay, Josh. So what did you have?
I actually was surprised at how many I came up with that I really like.
Me too. Like 2.
It is, Tim. Maybe this will be a time where you keep quiet for a while and I actually get to talk. Okay, so I love The Office. I have 2 Office specials that I really like. Okay, the first one is Dwight's Christmas. Okay, Dwight's Christmas is hilarious. The one where they don't have a Christmas party because what's her name? Who's the heavier set older woman? Phyllis purposely doesn't plan the Christmas party to blackmail Angela, and so Dwight comes up with one, and he brings his German Saint Nicholas guy, Belschnickel or whatever, and then Daryl gets so drunk he falls on the table. That is hilarious. And then Toby keeps talking about the Scranton Strangler, and he just won't stop. And so Nellie kisses him, and then it totally turns in later in the season. It totally turns into this thing where Nellie is trying to get away from Toby. It's hilarious. And then the other one I like is the one, I think it's from season 2. It's their first Christmas special where Michael Scott buys the iPod. They were doing the, what was it? The white elephant or whatever. And then it turns into Yankee Swap. Oh man, that one is so funny. I love that.
I call it fun.
yeah, that's a good one too.
That's what Ashley's talking about. She didn't like.
Yeah, I love it. I love it because I don't know. I love the awkwardness of Michael Scott. I know that like towards the end of the series, it turns out that he's actually a really good boss, and there was a method to everything he was doing. But I just love awkward Michael Scott. Like from the original season, the few seasons, he was so funny, and it made it so uncomfortable, and I just love that. The Simpsons first Christmas special where they get Santa's Little Helper.
Yeah,
that one is so good. And Santa's Little Helper, you know, he's in the entire rest of the show. I think he's still alive in the show 30 years later. Of course, Maggie's still a baby, so I mean, you know. I guess it's just the way it works. But
But
yeah,
that's important how they got him.
yeah, because if I'm not, so it's been so long since I've seen it, but what I do remember is they went to bet. Oh, they bet money on his race, and they
Barney
thought,
had a tip. Barney had a tip.
uh-huh,
And then they went to the race because they blew all the Christmas money from the bonus and everything on Bart's mom tattoo
oh, that's
removal.
right, the mom tattoo. Yeah, and so they go there
Had
to
no
try
money
to.
for Christmas. So they
Yeah.
go and Barney has a tip and he told them which horse or which dog to bet on. And they get there and Homer sees Santa's little helper. He says, "That's our dog right there."
Yeah.
He goes dead last.
Yeah, he goes dead last. And so, and then
Barney
they,
comes out, "I told you." And then
yeah.
yeah, and so then he was like, and then they're sitting in the parking lot looking for Stubbs that had the winning dog. And then all of a sudden the owner kicks out Santa's little helper and he's a stray. And he's like, "He's dumb, he's pathetic, he's a Simpson."
Yeah, so that is a great episode. I like that one.
That's one of your favorites, Josh.
What's that?
That's one of your favorites.
That's one of my favorites. Yeah,
It-
but
It's on your list.
Not
it's
on my list. I thought about it, but I didn't like make a list. But I did think that came to mind when I talked about the idea. It's really good though because it talks about and the kid he gets home and Homer's like trying to confess that they lost all the money and all of a sudden Bart runs in with the dog. He's like, "Look what we got!" Like they didn't even care. It's just like you're talking about, Ashley. They eliminate all the materialistic aspects of it from the parents, and the kids don't care. They were excited to get a dog, and it was such a special moment. And that was the first Simpsons anything before the show started. That was started with that episode.
So another show, moving on to my list. Another one that I really like, which I'm surprised nobody really talked about, was the Festivus episode of Seinfeld.
Yeah, that's a
I
good one.
love that. That is so funny. Like the Festivus idea where you get to air your grievances at Festivus dinner. And I love Frank Costanza when he's sitting there and he's like, "Okay." He's like, "I got a lot to say to you guys. I got a lot of problem with all you guys, and you're all gonna hear about it." Like, it's so great. And then little random things would happen, and Kramer would keep calling them Festivus miracles. Oh gosh. And they had the aluminum pole. Oh gosh, so funny.
I
Festivus.
never liked that episode. I thought it was dumb. And I love Seinfeld. That's my favorite sitcom. But I just didn't like it.
Yeah, of course you didn't like it because everybody liked it, and you can't like everything that everybody else likes. So that's fine. Another one I liked was Married with Children. I don't know the name of the episode, but it was the one where there was like a rival mall that opened up, and it was affecting the shoe store, and it was going to affect Al's Christmas bonus. So he takes a job as Santa, and he just like, oh, and at the same time also something happens. I can't remember exactly what happens, but something happens to Santa, and he ends up like landing on the Bundy's front yard, and like everyone's all freaked out that there's not going to be a Christmas. So he decides to take the Santa job at the mall, and he just looks so miserable the whole time he's doing it, and it's so funny to watch him. That's a great one too.
I thought you were going to say the Sam Kinison episode where he plays the guardian angel who goes, and that's the one where they do the "It's a Wonderful Life" story where Al
I remember that one too. Yeah, I remember that one too. And then he sees that like everybody else is really happy while he's not there. Like, I can't let them all be happy. And so
yeah. And the guy that plays Jefferson, I can't remember his name, that later on, because Steve was still the neighbor, and then Jefferson played the husband in the scenario of what would have happened if Al wasn't there. It was Jefferson was the husband. Yeah. And it was all happy and successful, and the kids respected him and stuff. And then they fixed it. Really interesting.
Yeah.
That was okay.
But anyway, that one was not on my list. So thank you for butting in and talking about that one. Anyway, and then finally, I have to bring up too, it was actually one that I thought a lot about, but for some reason I didn't equate it as for episodes. I don't know why, but the Mr. Bean Christmas is something I watch so much. That scene with the nativity when he brings the dinosaur in and then he turns he goes, ah! And that is so hilarious. And of course, the most iconic moment of all of Mr. Bean when he gets the turkey stuck on his head. Like, that is so great. In fact, I gotta say, when they made the Mr. Bean movie, I was so excited that I actually cut school to go see the very first episode or the very first showing of the movie. And we went and saw it. And I was so disappointed that it was basically just a retelling of, like, all the best gags were the ones that were from the TV show. It was super.
I was disappointed because of that.
Yeah, I was really disappointed because of that too. It was too bad that they did that. And then they made another Mr. Bean movie, and it was okay, but it wasn't.
I think, and the third one was actually really good. And I can't remember. I think this is Holiday or something. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I remember that one. And then finally, I have 2 episodes of Roseanne that I really liked. The first one, I actually just watched it just recently, was the very first one they did where I think she's working at Rod Bell's and in the restaurant, and the manager is looking for a Santa, and she convinces him to let her play Santa. And so, and this is also the same episode where Darlene, she has a friend that she doesn't want Roseanne to know about, and she ends up meeting the friend. Like, the friend is an older woman who owns a bookstore and brings her kid to Santa. And then that's when she introduces herself to her, and she realizes it's this old woman, and she tells her all about all of her writing stuff, like her science fiction and all this stuff. And so it brings this bond. And the interesting thing about that is in Roseanne, there's this unique bond that Darlene and Roseanne have over writing. In fact, one of the first things that one of the biggest bonds they have is Darlene is like, I remember there's an episode in like the second season or something like that where Darlene has to write a poem, and she doesn't want to do it, and Roseanne is like trying to encourage her to do some writing, and she just doesn't want to be expressive. And then she actually wins this contest and gets to read it in front of the whole school, and it's like this really like intense, poem, about, growing up as a tomboy. And then it kind of, that storyline continues throughout the rest of the show, where she starts wanting to become a writer just like Roseanne, and then goes off to a writing school just like Roseanne. And you can see that Roseanne is kind of living her dream, because Roseanne always wanted to be a writer in the show, is kind of encouraging Darlene, because she felt, even though, she married Dan and wasn't necessarily regretful of that, she was always regretful that she never pursued writing like she wanted to.
Right.
So anyway, that was a great episode, and just there is this scene, and it's so funny where because Jackie she plays Roseanne's elf, who like is taking all the pictures, and the scene where before it goes to commercial, where some kid is like snapping all these pictures, and Jackie's yelling at her, and then they get this picture and freeze it on Jackie's face screaming at this kid, and it's so funny. Anyway, and then the other one
started Roseanne again. When you mentioned it a couple weeks ago, I was like, I want to start back on season 1. So I'm like a third of the way through season 1, but it sounds like you're like on 3 now.
Yeah, I've been going through it pretty quickly. And then finally, the last one, there's in the later seasons, there's one called, I think it's called like White Trash Christmas or something like that. And it's the one where they get a notice that their like local neighborhood association has decided, due to Roseanne and Dan's tacky Christmas decorations, that they're instituting a white lights only like Christmas decoration rule in the neighborhood. And so Dan and Roseanne are like, oh, we're definitely beating that. And so they find all these like totally terrible, tacky, gaudy like Christmas decorations and put them up all over their yard. And it's so funny. Their comedic timing is so great. But then also, that's the same episode where whoever the new Becky is she's come back with Mark, and they're living with them, and they, as a Christmas gift, give Becky a semester of college's tuition for Christmas. And instead of going and doing that, she enrolls Mark in a trade school and gets a job at the local, like basically the equivalent of Hooters. and they like lose their mind over that. And then also DJ and the grandma decide to go and visit Darlene at school, and they find out Darlene is actually living with David
Yeah.
there. And so, yeah, it's a great episode.
That's one of the last episodes I watched, last year, whatever, when I was trying to go back through, and that's when I got, I lost interest. But yeah, that's all those. I do remember that those were good episodes.
That episode was hilarious because later on in another episode, when Roseanne figures out that David is living up there with Darlene, she goes over there and they hate each other so much. They're so mad. And she's like, "You're taking all the fun out of this for me." Like,
yeah.
You guys are already punished enough together. And they're just like, "Yeah, take him. Good. Take him back. I hate him." Just so good. Anyway, those are my Christmas specials.
Good job. So. All right. Well, that's our episode tonight for our favorite, not listed top 7, but our favorite Christmas specials or anti-favored specials for if you're Ashley and don't have the spirit of Christmas when you're watching sitcoms, only when you're watching movies. But if you actually watched all of this and got to the end, then thank you for watching and caring what we had to say about Roseanne and other such things. And stay tuned for a future discussion about Alf. And
I just got to say, if you got through my long diatribe about Mike Tyson, you're brave.
And if I was doing the editing, I'd have a little timestamp.
And then if you got through Tim's discussion of Family Stone, you are even more brave. Like, you are very brave. Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so thanks for your support if you watched all of this, and thanks for enjoying Saints on Cinema. We appreciate everything. Like this video and subscribe if you haven't already, and ring that Christmas bell so you can be notified when we're going to talk about more Christmas stuff for the next few weeks. And yeah, anything else anyone has to say? No? Good. We can end this. Next time, we're going to talk about Alf. And as always, thanks for watching Saints on Cinema. Good night.